Dreams and visions. Well, just a brief look. In the back of the Dream Dreams book, there's quite an extensive description of the different words that are used by the Bible in the Greek and the Hebrew about dreams and visions and how the words are used. My wife, who loves to be here with me but has to work, she's studied Greek and Hebrew, and she's done a lot of work in that. And what we learned in the bottom of it all, when we cut to the chase, was that dreams and visions are two distinct experiences with similarities. Our book is called Dream Dreams, but we believe it also speaks to visions. The distinction between them is that dreams come to us through the vehicle of sleep, and visions come to us as an intrusion into our time and space. Now, in the New Testament, there's a couple of references to trance. You remember Peter had a trance when he was on the roof. He didn't have a trance. He went into a trance and he had a vision. So what we call here is an intrusion in time and space could also be called a trance, but that's not a really cool word for church folk nowadays. And so we prefer that other definition. But do you see the difference? Some people believe that you've had a trance. Well, no, you were in a trance and you had a vision. So the trance or the intrusion into the time of your time and space becomes the vehicle through which you had a vision, just like sleep is the vehicle through which you have a dream. That makes sense? The similarity between dreams and visions is found in the language of the message. Both dreams and visions speak to us with a message comprised of a sequence of images, symbols, sounds, emotions, color, all having meaning, clarity, and purpose. I'll leave that up for a moment. Do you see the similarity? Anybody here had a vision? Okay, they're symbolic. We treat them the same way. So from now on, when I talk about dreams, I want to be inclusive of visions as well. Have anybody here had little pictures when you're praying for somebody? You see something? Yeah, they're quite common. Whether they're a vision or a prophetic picture, we treat them the same way. Does God have regard for dreams? I always am amazed how surprised people are when we start to point out how God has used dreams in the Bible. In fact, to pastors, many times they've said, well, I've read this many times and I never realized it was a dream. Remember this? An angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife. You know the story, you've read this many times. God spoke to Joseph in a dream and said, what's happened to Mary, I did it, it's okay, marry her anyways. Now, if Joseph had no regard for dreams, where would we be today? But does it also speak to you to the high regard that God had for dreams? Carrying on, God warned the Magi to go back to their own country another way and avoid Herod. Now, if the Magi didn't have any regard for dreams, where would we be today? How would that have influenced us? What about going to Egypt? It's time to pack up and go to Egypt. Again, if Joseph had not had regard for dreams, Jesus may have been slain with the rest of the children in Bethlehem. Now, granted, God would have looked at some other way of doing it perhaps, but his first approach was to use dreams. And from Egypt coming back, it's time to go home, it's okay, it's safe now. And then going back to Nazareth, all in dreams. Now, God trusted the life of his son to dreams. That's pretty You're familiar with Joseph in the Old Testament? He dreamt about the sheaves. They were in a field cutting wheat, and they bound some sheaves together, and he describes how his sheaves stood erect and his brothers' sheaves bowed down to him. I always found it interesting that his brothers, it says that they hated him even more for the dream. They knew right away what the dream meant. They, in fact, told him the interpretation. It's because they were so used to dreams, it was so much a part of their culture and their life, that interpreting their dreams was like learning another language. They knew right away what it meant, and they hated Joseph even more. Peter is on the roof in Joppa, and he has the vision. And with the unclean animals, you're familiar with it. Now, if Peter didn't have any regard for dreams, how would that have affected us today? He might have just disregarded those pagans, those Gentiles, when they came to the door asking for him, because the Jews had nothing to do with the Gentiles. And yet the dream was enough, or the vision was enough of an influence on him that he thought, I better go with him. I don't know what's happening here. But he had a regard for dreams and he followed through. And I'm glad he did. We're going to talk about Peter a little bit more. There are others. Some people believe that when the apostles left, all of the gifts and the like left as well. Well, these are some of the post-apostolic fathers. And they had high regard for dreams as well. They were important to them in the organization and the running of the church. There's a book, A Dream Come True by James Ryle. I'm not sure if it's out of print now, but if you can get a copy, he goes to great lengths talking about, through history, how dreams have been significant in the lives of the church and of people. And they have been. It's when we have regard for them and we allow them to do their thing in our lives, that we really get influenced by them.